Greetings, welcome back to my channel, Lantern Bridge. And first, a huge thank you to all the new subscribers. The Nicholas Schreck interview has been quite a success, and I appreciate all the comments in there. Someone did ask in those comments, what about you, Brad? What about your experience? Did you meet anybody famous or have some weird things happen? Interesting question. I appreciate it, and I'll go into that. As for my occult journey growing up and how I got into this in the first place, check out my occult journey is the title of the video in my collection of videos. So I've always been involved with occultism, looking for outsider answers, and I've had a lot of supernatural experiences which helped me not be an atheist and know, I've experienced this stuff. I know that there is a reality to it. The Temple of Set, joining it was a very serious decision, and people, I think in some of the comments to Nicholas's video, our interview, people are very superficial a lot, and they're not taking this very seriously either. So this stuff is, what do you believe in? What do you stand for? What do you say is real? What is real to you? What is your truth? And why is your truth important and real and not some fantasy? We've got enough fantasy and media constantly churning lie after lie. So I think today it's super important to find some truth in our belief system, because right now there is no center, there is no belief, there is no God, there is no objective truth. And in this world, Michael Aquino is a mastermind puppeteer running psyops. He's still alive, and I won't even go into the child aspect of those lies. That's where we're at, and it's important to find the truth and push it, no matter how small our voice is. What else can we do? So I am a seeker of adventure and truth. Life should be exploration, pushing the limits, leaving the masses and going out into the desert to the borderlands. That's Setian, right? His form of chaos is that creative unbalance, that dynamism, so you don't get stuck. There's that little question, and suddenly you're in a whole new, vibrant, alive work. And in the Egyptian mythology, was Apophis, the snake. That's a different form of chaos. That's negation of existence. That's total. By that chaos, they mean total existential destruction, death, nothing. Basically absolute nothingness. So there's two forms of that chaos. And I was attracted to that mythology, or what those symbols are, as an artist. Creative destruction. You build up, you break down, you draw, erase, and draw back into it. And there's this dynamic push-pull of creative destruction. Right? And that process, back and forth, creates movement. That's life to me. That's how I create. So when we're encountering these things at a young age, the first impressions can have a big impression. And it might be what you need for that push, but it might not be the ultimate truth, right? So, as many of you Gen Xers, you probably encountered Michael Aquino on a talk show, Geraldo. My cousin recorded the Michael Aquino interview. And we watched it and watched it. And then, I think I really was sick. But every time I was sick and would stay home and watch Phil Donahue, there's the Satanist, there's Zena LeVay. I got sick weeks later. There's Michael Aquino on Geraldo. So it was the satanic panic days. But it was just funny. Every time I was sick, a Satanist appeared. They cursed me. So my first impression of Dr. Aquino was on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Now, I am not from a big city. I am not from California in the 80s or the 70s. I'm not from New York or Chicago. I eventually lived in Chicago, and now I'm in a huge city in Australia, Melbourne. I am sort of a city guy now, but I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is a very conservative Christian. They call it Dutch Christian Reformed. And at the time, in the 80s, we actually had more churches per capita than anywhere else in the world. Church, 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 church. I'm an artist, outsider, one of those kids. And when me and my cousin saw this guy all in black with it's like a priest's collar, but black, with his, strange black hair and eyebrows wisped up, worshiping, running a satanic organization. You don't understand how much of a shock to even see that such a person existed. Now, if you're walking around in California or New York, you're going to see strange people. People are strange. I get that. And there's levels of it everywhere. Even my city, of course, had, a few people like that. But this was so extreme. And at the same time, he's a lieutenant colonel and a real doctor. Encountering Aquino during that time when, people like me were being literally chased by groups of kids to be beaten up because of our beliefs. He's a devil worshiper. He's a Satanist. In 5th grade, 1985. To see someone stand out like that, Nicholas said, hey, this guy, for all his, he said his loathsome qualities, one of his positives was during that time he didn't hide in his house like LeVay. He went out there and fought. So I guess I'll start there. And yes, to some kids in West Michigan in the 80s that, weren't the cool kids, a bit weird, into art and dark things, and, that meant something. Dr. Aquino meant something to us. And it was inspirational to have courage and fight back. Absolutely. So in the end, because I was also considering joining the Church of Satan in the late 90s. At the time, I was trying to put everything together. 25 years later, here I am, trying to put everything. It doesn't end. I don't think it's ever going to end. That search for truth. But at the time, I wanted a base. I wanted some knowledge and being able to grow and be tested by others and not just be alone in all of this. And I thought I would make a damn good black magician with my art background, my interests, all of that, my qualities, and my experience. I wanted to share that. So in the end, I think what made me go into the Temple of Set were those TV appearances from Dr. Aquino. Me and my cousin even called the Temple of Set and got the famous answering machine where Aquino talks about, you have reached the Temple of Set, the only satanic organization recognized by the United States government. Wild stuff. So I joined, and I was I was accepted. There's a little questionnaire, I think. This is years ago, obviously. And you send through your driver's license, and they do a background check, I believe. And a month or so later, I was accepted. You pay. It's just a little, fee for the things you receive. The Crystal Tablet of Set, which was a loose bound book, and you can download it free on the internet. At the time, it was secret, pretty secret. And as I said, the internet was just beginning at this time. So you were receiving documents that are like, whoa, this is somewhat secretive, cool. And a white medallion, the upside down, depends on how you look at it, pentagram, not touching the sides, the Setian pentagram. So I really thought about this, and it begins with sort of an overview, an explanation, and in the Nicholas Schreck interview, we've gone through what Dr. Aquino believes Set to be, and that's all outlined in the book, and it's also in the interview that I did with him before he died. Yes, I did an interview before he died. I just want to make sure that's clear. It's all outlined in there. And I took it as interesting, not very... It was weird because, there's this idea about the human brain with no scientific explanation, quadrupled or whatever it is. It grew tremendously in a short period of time. And the metaphor was 2001: A Space Odyssey, where basically an alien creates or human consciousness through, the hominids, the human half ape, half human level in prehistory on Earth. Not that Aquino was saying Set's an alien. That was the metaphor. So that the gift of Set is consciousness. It wasn't, you didn't have to believe in any of that. You could believe it as Set as an actual being, a god, or a metaphor. Now, to enter the priesthood and actually get any power in that organization, you pretty much had to believe, right? But there were people that didn't, and it wasn't forced. It was, it was open, and you could interpret things as a metaphor. You could question things. It wasn't, some cult nightmare, believe all this. It was quite open. And one of the things that I liked about the magic, he has a section in the Crystal Tablet called Black Magic. It gives the most basic outlines of a ritual. And what I also liked about the Temple of Set regarding that was I think it's in the book of Coming Forth by Night, maybe, I don't know. You can't force people to do a ritual in a certain way. So as an artist, it was open. It was very open creatively. And I think this is where some of the problem was, maybe with more traditional people like Nicholas Schreck, where things could go so far afield from the original source material that you're now dealing with something. Is it even set? I mean, why are you even calling it set if it's that different than why did you bother calling it that in the first place? And so what you have to do is find a priest so that I think you have 1 or 2 years, I don't recall, maybe it's 2, to get recognized by a priest, someone in the priesthood. You have to be recognized as an adept black magician, 2nd degree. Okay? So that experience, I briefly touched on what happened. I reached out to several priests, and it mostly was they were too busy with other students or currently not doing it. And that takes time, and it's sort of annoying. And then I did connect with a Japanese priestess. Largely, one of the things in her descriptions, because you get a list of priests and their contact email, their setting, or it was something, a way to contact them through the intranet or whatever it was, some archaic system they had way back then. And she claimed that she studied Japanese sorcery. And when I contacted her, she was really into those water tanks where it's all dark. I'm forgetting what it's called now. She highly recommended those. But when I asked her about the Japanese sorcery, she was like, well, basically, it's her interpretation. So again, here we are. She made it up based on some Japanese folklore and this and that. And that becomes Japanese sorcery. And that is wonderful if you want that loose interpretation. But if you're like, I'm studying, ancient religious practices of Japan, oh, priestess, what are these Japanese sorceress secrets you have? That would be none. And then there was some sort of affair, or she was having or I don't know if it was a relationship with another priest, and I didn't really go into it, but she quit, I think, or took a break, whatever it is. Anyway, so I had spent a couple months maybe working with her after trying to find some other people. And at the same time, you have to join a pylon. Now, keep in mind, as I said in the beginning, I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So there's no settings anywhere really near me. So all of this was correspondence, right? And you're encouraged to go to those conclaves, those annual meetings. But if you're a student with no money, like I was at the time, that's very difficult. The hotels, the flights, the time from work. But anyway, I was just starting. And so already we've got time being wasted here on my journey and being cut off, and learning a lot is subjective, just sort of made up stuff from these priests. Then here we go. Rosemary Webb, who's Don Webb's wife at the time, I don't know if they're still together or whatever. She accepted me and was going to help to get me recognized. And this might have connected back to what Nicholas was talking about, because he and Zeno were there at the same time, and they were magisters already, I believe. So something happened. It might have been those politics related back to Zena, but she had to stop helping me, and there I am again. So this is the second or third priest that I started with, some kerfuffle, and eventually I ran into, I've got an interview with him, the priest that recognized me, and he's going by Walter Alter. And, well, yeah, he's an artist in San Francisco, and you can see his story. It's quite interesting. He was actually investigating the murder of suicide of his friend, where he suspected there was some satanic aspects to it and maybe a murder. And so he infiltrated the Temple of Set to find out if there were some rituals involving, hanging, asphyxiation, sex rituals, or anything like that. And of course, it's not. But check out his interview as well if you're curious. So after working with him for a long time, several months, and I didn't expect that I wasn't doing things to get recognized. I was like, I just do these things. And I was really into studying guitar, classic rock guitar, in the Jimmy Page vein, and just the tone I loved, and the sliding, and just some of the distortion and chaos that he creates. I wanted to use that in an occult sense. I made a whole album of instrumental guitar with drum machine and synth bass. I lost it, unfortunately. A tape, from a 4-track, a soundtrack to the original Nosferatu, 1922. So if you watched it and lined it up with the tape, I created my own soundtrack to it. And this was in the late 90s. And I sent him a copy of the tape. And he emailed me once he got it and recognized me as an Adept second degree. So that creativity, I guess, the connecting to that darker force he could feel in the music, maybe. I don't know. Maybe he was just sick of me. There you go, second degree. I don't know. But it was a proud moment, and I eventually received the ruby tablet of Set, which is for the second degree, obviously, and a red medallion. You write articles. I joined a pylon, which is sort of like a coven or a group, whatever you want to call it. But because of my geography in Michigan, it is a correspondence. So in my time with, in fact, I've never one face-to-face met a Setian. And that's fine. It can be difficult if you're not in a big city, right? So, those Shreks, those troublemakers. Yeah, I would do rituals. I did experiments. I, thought I was connecting with things, but something wasn't quite right. And I noticed there was, well, I wrote an article about it that was, I believe it was published in the Scroll of Set, or maybe it was just an online article. I don't remember. But like the white is Set being whitewashed, and people are like, well, we just it's not whitewashed. There's aspects, blah blah blah. And one of the only magisters that responded positively was Nicholas, and he said, I agree. I think it is being whitewashed. They're missing the core. What he's saying now, he was always saying. So I think it was Xena suggested to me through the correspondence, just a comment or something on the intranet about the article or about the whatever I'd written. Really the best book to look into is Set, God of Confusion, published by Brill, and was it Teveld is the author. Anyway, I read that, and Nicholas is right. It's very different than how Set is presented, at least back then, at the Temple of Set, from Aquino. they're basically worshiping. I've always thought this sort of a projection of Michael Aquino himself. Logical, stern, they almost like, yeah, this, the way they write is, there's this deadpan monotone and logical with a little, stab, at you. What I was finding was, so Set is going outside the group, and we're a group. And what I was seeing was stagnation and dogma. Well, isn't Set supposed to be that creative destruction, as I mentioned in the beginning? That disturber? So that I started to have questions that stemmed largely from Xena suggesting I read this Set God of Confusion book. And at that time, I wanted to go really deep for myself and encounter Set in a magical ritual, which I performed. And open to, I don't know, am I going to meet a form of isolate intelligence as advanced by Michael Aquino, a logical, dark, intense, separate figure. It's not what I encountered, though. Me personally, I encountered a storm of potential, a literal, and it was frightening. Now, I've had a couple of these visions. One was similar that I've gone into in my journey, occult journey. But I'm talking, imagine if you were in a sandstorm with lightning and, the wind, where the wind could rip your body apart. That's the force I was encountering, in my practice at least. Nothing calm, logical, isolate, conscious. That just wasn't my experience. And yeah, you could say, well, you just read that book. Yeah, but for years I've been studying the Aquino interpretation. And wouldn't it be great to go along with what I joined, Yep, this verifies it. We're on the right path, folks. Charge. Kefir. That's not how life works. It's not how magic works. Expect the unexpected. And it was an intense experience. It's beyond words, so no matter what I describe it at, it's going to sound disappointing. Just know it was an intense vision, storm-like, well, maybe beyond any storm you can encounter in reality. And I took that as a sign that there's something here beyond what I was being told in the Temple of Set. The Shreks were right, it seems, to me. So, now at the time, I'm an art student. And there's a thing called theory. This is postmodernism, continental philosophy. So the art world was heavily, I could go into this, but I'll just say this. What I was into from postmodernism was deconstructionism from a philosopher called Jacques Derrida. I actually did my master's thesis on deconstructionism. So you could take a text and kind of have it destroy itself by the text. There are little weak areas in language, little hinges that contradict itself. You can't escape it when you speak. And part of their practice to show that you can't really get to the absolute truth because we're limited by language. This goes back to ideas of Wittgenstein. And beyond that, I mean, there's obvious connections to Buddhism and Christian mysticism and Gnosticism, and Lacanian theory here. All right, we're going astray here. The point is, I was annoying Aquino because I took one of his, me and another, I think he was an art student, or maybe he was a philosophy student. We kind of teamed up, and we were like, well, the Temple of Set is supposed to be like a university, but I don't see any postmodernism. No pomo thought, pomo, ya homo. There was none of that. We're like, well, let's start playful, postmodernism. They did not like that. So basically, honestly, Aquino came down like a hammer, and he attacked that article, and by proxy, me and this other guy. The other guy threw himself on his sword, apologized, and what pissed me off to this day about Don Webb, he's like, you insulted your teacher's teacher, as if he were my teacher. That's why, I mean, and if you watch Don Webb's interviews, he is a pompous ass. So now at the same time, there was an incident between the Shreks and the priest that recognized me, Walter. And I'm not going to go into it. I don't want to go into it. I understand from the Shrek's point of view, people that have been hunted and attacked, you need your privacy. All right? I know Walter would never, ever intentionally compromise that. Let's just say he made a mistake. He admits it. But that he was being considered to become a magister. I think we might touch on this in our interview. Anyway, yeah, the Shreks were very unhappy because some personal information he accidentally released, trying to help them with something. That's my understanding. I've only heard it from one side. I want to stay out of all that. But he basically was forced out, or just got sick of the whole politics of everything, and he left. So I'm like, he left, and I'm getting attacked now for daring to use postmodern techniques that I'm learning in university within the Temple of Set, which is supposed to be a place of learning. And I've got these pompous people forcing, like, you could only be, if it's not from, Plato or Aquino, how is that learning? So I quit in a huff. And this was right as I went into the University of Chicago for my master's degree. And I took that as a breaking point. I messaged them on one of their public boards and told them what pieces of shit they all are and pathetic and blah, blah, blah. Purposely burning bridges. Magically severing, so I thought. I didn't want any connection to that anymore. And I did want to take part of my time getting my master's degree to also continue on my own explorations of set and magic and all that. I took all my materials and medallions. I threw them in the dumpster at the International House of Chicago where I was staying. And so they're in a landfill somewhere just outside of the International House. There's a big dump, I guess, not that far. That's what happened. That was my setting experience. I eventually reconnected with, almost 2 decades later, reconnected with Walter, who does poetry, and I was sharing some of my music, and I used some of his poetry in one of my songs. So yeah, I thought that was pretty well it. Now, what happened with me with postmodernism? Aquino was kind of right. It is a dead end, and I see where he was probably worried about the danger if those ideas infected the writings of the Temple of Set. It could lead to problems. I'm no longer a follower of postmodernism. If you have to use those terms, I guess I would be in what you call, I think, metamodern. So yes, that's using the past ironically, nostalgically, but allowing some actual heart and daring, the corny embarrassment of putting real emotion into art. So that's something I wish I had had the whole time. But we were totally infected, and the art world is totally infected by these, poorly translated French philosophy books. What can I say? That's what it is. Check out, what's her name? Paglia. She's got videos on this. Camilla Paglia, I think it is. It's been a while since I've investigated those things, but I contacted Aquino around, I want to say 2015-ish or so, and just said, you know what, I just wanted to, you probably don't even remember me, but this was the situation, this is what happened, this is what I was doing, and I just want to say, you were right, and I'm no longer into that, and I totally understand, and I'm, you were correct, and I get why you didn't want postmodernism included in that. He was super friendly. He invited me to reapply to the Temple of Set. I brought that up to Walter. He's like, think very carefully about it. And I didn't, and it just felt like, honestly, just the politics is obnoxious, folks. Now, I know people ask, what weird experiences did you have? I mean, why aren't you having weird experiences? If you're into magic, you don't need the Temple of Set. You don't need anybody. Go out and do some black magic. Yeah, you might get fucked up. You want the adventure, but not the risk. I used to have this channel called Risk Magic. So it's just kind of funny to me. I mean, it's not hard to get weird experiences. I mean, the weird's normal eventually. But it's not, for me anyway, it was mostly hearing about upper politics and soap opera, love triangles, people trying to rise up in power and being thrown out. And I mean, it's actually distracting and annoying. So, and boring, frankly. And that's the main reason I didn't rejoin, even though, I'm interested in that thing. That and just, I just thought, well, I'm a little more hardcore. No, I'm not more hardcore. I'm just more Setian. Because it's chaos and going out to the borderlands, far away from everything. Not isolate intelligence. So I'm agreeing with Nicholas here. And I, of course, I had... if you're in the occult, you're going to have weird experiences. And eventually I was running a channel. I'm interviewing people. I'm like, hey, I've got like 5,000 or 3,000, I forget how many people I had, subscribers. And I asked Aquino for an interview. So that's how that happened. And he agreed. It's because I had come back earlier, like a few years before that, and said, you were right, and explained why. And I changed and grew. So thoughts on the Nicholas Schreck interview. I did have a little sense of guilt. Because I know Nicholas has a totally, negative view of Dr. Aquino. And if half of what he has said is true, can you blame him? And he shared with me some personal tidbits that are beyond the pale, okay? But like I said, what matters more is the truth, not hero worship, not nostalgia, not being thankful for maybe somebody who helped you in the beginning. Sometimes, regardless, you have to let that go and face the facts and the truth of it. Do I have a personal hatred or anger against Dr. Aquino or any of those people? No, I dealt with it my way. Do I think that the Temple of Set is leading people toward knowledge or away from it? I kind of feel away. And I feel that Set is, their version of Set is sort of a projection of Dr. Aquino's Platonic ideal self. He's worshiping himself, and he's got everybody worshiping it in a way. And I suspect the Schrecks might have picked up on some of that. And with their warrior, antinomian, rebel spirit, right away, just were like, F you. So for me, this is full circle. This is full circle for me. I'm at a time now where I am trying to find my path. My son was very sick in China, had to have an emergency operation. And I wasn't fully there for him spiritually. Now, I was actually in Australia, and he's with his relatives in China, Wuhan of all places. And if you're a parent, Shiva, Jesus Christ, Set, Buddha, all of you, help them. I don't give a shit who you are. And I was kind of like, I've got all these little pieces of, black magic here, some Crowley here, some chaos magic here, a little Gnostic Christianity here, some Buddhism here, some, I've just got kind of a mishmash. And I thought, well, with my creativity, and you can see some of my rituals, those were coming out of, I'm tired of people just talking and not doing. You can make fun of my rituals. There's aspects of them where I'm like, cringe, sure. But at least I shared them to inspire people. You do better then. And part of the idea was to incorporate, as the video is being shown, some of the energy of the ritual is coming back out again. Rituals, they're supposed to exist outside of time anyway. So I was experimenting with that. But what it is a bunch of parts. What's that Johnny Cash song about the car? It's a 58, 57, just a big mess. It works. It can drive. But is it reliable? Is it true? Is it true? Pragmatism isn't everything. So what I'm trying to do now is find my path, find my way. And when the shit hits the fan, when you're in that foxhole, who do you pray to? What brings you peace in times of real struggle? What's your real purpose? What is your real meaning? I'm on that search, and it's not the Temple of Set. So I hope my little Temple of Set journey helps you in some way. If you're a searcher as well, if you're exploring. Again, thank you for all the new subscribers. I hope it continues, and I hope this channel can help people think in new ways about the occult and really be active, do something. There's nothing wrong with, talking and theorizing, but who can really fight? You know what I mean? Who can really throw themselves out there? Who is willing to... Yeah, it's easy to tell. Who will show? And I hope I get some credit for that and inspire others, even as occult performance artists. Start showing. Throw yourself out there. Be in danger. Take risk. Or I don't think you're really going to ever find anything. And if you just stumble upon it, lucky you. But that's my message. That's my, Temple of Set journey. And again, thanks to Nicholas Schreck for sharing his ideas. And agree with us or not, I hope these videos help you at least consider options related to Satanism, the left-hand path, Setianism, all of that. Thank you.